Today, we are joined by guitarist and founding member of Helstar, Larry Barragan. Helstar, of course, one of the great underground metal bands in Texas history. I mentioned early in the show that I don't think you can have a discussion about Texas metal history without mentioning Helstar. Of course, you have to mention Watchtower. Of course, you have to mention S.A. Slayer, Militia, Juggernaut. A lot of great bands came out of Texas, but Helstar may have the longest longevity as far as just continuous, I don't know, what do you say, 13 albums or something like that? Just crazy.
Yeah, it's 13 with, and number 13's on the way.
New album Devil's Masquerade coming out in August. So by the time you're watching this or listening to this, that album will be right around the corner. The Devil's Masquerade from Helstar.
13 records.
Crazy.
Yeah. And, it's been kind of, and he talks candidly and honestly about him stepping down from the band for a while.
Yeah.
And the records that, Helstar may have released without him, I couldn't tell you the names of those records. But I will say that, him being a founding member, it's kind of a thing where you never really leave your own, something you created. You're always in the room spiritually.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we get into it with Larry today about a lot of different things and what all of this means to him. He tells some great stories. Dave, you had you came in prepared, and just to give people what's happening behind the scenes is, again, I got a text from Dave going, I'm kind of going to follow your lead a little bit. I mean, of course I know Helstar, but I don't know Helstar.
Yeah.
Like you may know Helstar. And I'm like, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You know more about Helstar than you think you do. And you had some great questions, and you were, they're one of those bands that have been around 40 years plus. They have toured and played shows and shared stages and recorded with and for and had their idols record them and engineer. They've done a lot of really great things. And they've probably eaten bread for 3 squares a day. They've probably, they've lived and they've died Helstar, and they ain't going anywhere.
Yeah. He started this band when he was like 19 years old, and then a couple years later, they're signed to Combat Records, which is just crazy to come out of the chute and to be signed to a legit metal album at that young age.
He tells us he met James when he was 17. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
How old they were. Yeah.
Yeah, and later they were signed to Metal Blade Records. I mean, those are two of the most legit. If you've got albums on Combat and Metal Blade, you've done something right, man.
Well, it also means that you were there. You were just there when the dam was breaking.
Yeah.
When all of this was created, and God created heavy metal. Well, Helstar was standing right there. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
They're standing right there.
And I love the fact that they're from Texas, and we'll let Larry tell the story, but it was interesting how those labels became aware of a band in the middle of the country in Texas, because obviously a lot of stuff was going on both coasts, but Texas wasn't exactly cranking out, major label metal bands at the time. And so for them to catch the attention of those labels by way of overseas and tape trading, as we've talked about, I'll let him tell the story, but it's really, really fascinating, especially for those of you who are watching and listening that grew up in the age of the internet, and you don't really understand what it was like to send cassette tapes across the ocean, or to hope some guy making a fanzine out in San Francisco would like your tape and share it with people. That's kind of how Helstar got started. And it's
and something that's really cool that I never take for granted, and I'm sure Larry doesn't either, is that they were flying the flag for Texas metal in front of people that didn't realize that, most people probably thought Texas was just a bunch of cowboys.
Yeah.
They didn't know that there was metal here, right? So when I think about it, it being that early, 80, 83, they're recording in New York and Texas. Wow, you're from Texas, not realizing, well, they're flying the flag for us. They did it. They sold their souls to heavy metal gods for all of Texas that, the rest of the world didn't know about it,
Yeah.
And for those of you who are younger, it's not your fault that you're proud of your thumbnail on your MP3 collection and not your record collection.
Yeah.
As well as what's a fanzine? Well, fanzine sits next to your record collection. So if you don't have a record collection, you might not have a fanzine collection.
The speed of discovery is lightning fast compared to what it used to be. When you sit here and when you talk about licking stamps and putting a cassette in an envelope and sending it overseas and then hoping that somebody's going to hear it, and then 6 months, 8 months, a year later, somebody calls you or something. That's, nowadays, obviously it's all on a keyboard. It's instantaneous.
It's immediate. Yeah, it's immediate. So
I love
that's
stories from our generation where you kind of get an appreciation or a reminder of just how organic things used to be back in the day. And
phone bills were hundreds of dollars. Long distance phone calls cost like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So you have to be of age to realize that. So.
Well, he's a lifer. I mean, the band has been around for 40 some years. He does, as you said, he stepped aside for a little bit, but was doing other things. But the name Helstar has been in the vocabulary of Texas metal for 40 some years and beyond. They're an international band at this point, let's face it. And a new album comes out in August. It's called The Devil's Masquerade. And if you stay tuned till the end of the episode, there's a surprise about the last track on the album that you're going to want to know about. So, yeah, great show today. Larry Barragan from Helstar on the Talk Louder podcast.